Zach, I do a lot of the painting and statue prep and just kind of prototyping for a lot of this stuff. About 6 months or so now we've been working on stuff, so it's been quite the journey. It's been fun getting to kind of not relive my childhood, but like discover a new aspect that I hadn't been able to pursue before. We're going to start with the He-Man figure. This one hasn't been prepped or anything yet. It's fresh off the printer. So usually what I do is go over the figure and see what kind of defects it has. So this is a resin print. I'm looking for bubbles or little dips where air pockets had been, but they burst, and see what I need to sand and see if there's anything that I need to go back over and fill to smooth it out and make it look the way it's supposed to. So on these arms, there are some air pockets and some bumps that we'll have to smooth out. So we'll pull this off, and I like to use a rubber block with some sandpaper on it. That way the sandpaper is going to keep the shape of the block and it's not going to try to go down into the resin. And I'm just going to go over the top of it real lightly, and I'm looking to see what it's taken off, to see where the high spots are, and then that way I can focus on those. So this is a 400 grit sandpaper. I usually start with something really light because I don't want to take a lot off. The least amount that I can take off, the better. It makes it much easier later for when I'm trying to paint. I don't want to have a bunch of scratch marks or anything like that I want to have to try and fix later, or I don't want to take away detail that the printer has put on that I need to keep. So just go over the whole arm, look for anything. Where I'll also be able to see is if there's low spots where the sandpaper hasn't hit the resin, it won't be a lighter color. So that'll be a spot where I need to, if I see any of those, that's where I need to put in some super glue or mix up some other resin to put in there to kind of bring that out to where it's supposed to be. I'll usually overfill those so that it turns into a bump, and then I can sand them smooth and blend it in. It's probably one of the little bit more tedious processes to do for these, but it's probably one of the most important. Is if you don't do a good prep with getting all this nice and smooth and evened out, when you go to paint later, even after you've primed it and you go to put your final colors on, or maybe even you make it all the way to where you put like a clear coat or something over the top of it and it gets shiny a little bit, and then all of a sudden you can see that you have a bubble or something in there. And then you're like, oh no, I got to start all over again. Looks like this one's good. Love it here. Yeah, the next one we'll do is the head. This one looks like it printed really good. There's a few little air pockets that happened in the hair on the back side. Those are a little bit trickier to get rid of, so I'm going to actually take this razor blade. Now on the back side, not necessarily on the blade here, but on the back side it's got a really nice sharp 90-degree corner, and it works really well if you drag it across these bumps and you kind of shave them off, and for getting in between stuff where you want to keep a lot of that finer detail where the sandpaper would kind of struggle with. And then we can go back through later after we've scraped a lot of these high spots off with that foam back grit paper and scuff it. So it looks like this one will actually have some spots that need to get filled in. So This one's got a couple of little spots in it that are low from some air bubbles that had popped. We like to use this Maxicure, or you can use like super glue with an accelerator. And you just dab a little bit on there, and then you can spray it with this Instacure, because I'm not very patient and it would take forever to wait for everything to dry. So wipe it down so there's not any loose stuff from getting shaved down, and to make sure this gives you just a real little spot. Yep. And I'm just going to dab a little bit here on all the little low spots and turn them into high spots, and then I can sand them and shave them smooth again to blend into everything else. There we go. Couple little spritz with this, and we'll just let it set for about 10 seconds, and then we can wipe it off and it'll be cured. There we go. Now we can reshave these back down. Make sure I don't glue my fingers to this razor blade. Alright, got most of the high spots off of that, and then I can use this foam back one to get in between all the hair, little rows of hair, and get it all sanded, blended in. It'll also let me see if there's any spots that I missed. Sometimes it's too hard to see some of the bumps after you've started sanding, so I'll just feel for it with my fingers. You'll be able to feel a little bump or maybe an edge of something that you couldn't see just because of the color of what the resin or what the plastic is that got printed with. See if this fits in here. Oh, perfect. So this bonding primer has worked really well for us. We had tried some other just regular like Rust-Oleum stuff. It was more for metal, but this bonding primer works really well for resin and plastics, because we were having an issue with stuff peeling back off. You get it all painted, and then if you touched it with anything hard, it would leave a little scrape. Just give it real light passes with the paint. You don't want to build it up too thick, because then it'll fill in all of your details. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Just have to let it dry now. So usually what I'll do is I'll take whatever I'm trying to copy, get it in some good lighting, and then try and find a color that is as close as I can find for it, and then kind of go from there. See how close they are? It looks like this is going to be real close. I'm going to need to darken it a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit. We'll try with like a brown color. Give it a couple of drops. Usually doesn't take very much. You have to go a little bit darker than what you need, because if you're going to coat it with a clear coat, it's going to brighten it up a little bit. So if you can find a clear coat that you like to use and you can kind of stick with it, you'll know. That way you can kind of know, okay, I need to make it like a shade or two darker, because I know that the clear coat's going to brighten it up that much. I think we got the paint that we need. So we'll spray the skin first. You want to do just real light. You don't want to use too much paint at first. Kind of bleed it in. And I like to do real thin layers of paint. So I try and keep as much of the detail as I can. Otherwise you just kind of end up flooding it out. And the paint will end up filling in all your little lines and everything you want to keep. I'll just work my way around the hair. That color will work good.